we think about life like a video game, and your soul is the player holding the controllers, and every life is a new round of the game where you've got a new personality, a new character you're playing. You have across all those games that you're playing a consistent character type or character class, if you like. This is what I call your soul type, also known as your soul archetype. Hi, I'm Jillian, and I have been studying reincarnation and the afterlife for over 30 years, and I am here to help you make the most of this lifetime. Today, we are going to be breaking down the 12 soul types. Whether you're a healer, a leader, a sage, a performer, we're going to find out. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what type you are and how you can use it to make the most of this lifetime and what it has to show you as far as what it is you're here to do. But here's what most people miss when they talk about soul archetypes. Each type has a cosmic assignment. These are sort of like our soul careers with the intention that we are playing a role to help awaken humanity. So as we go through these types, we're going to find out what role you are playing to help awaken humanity, because I think it's time for us to all wake up. So this video is part of my Reincarnation as a Game series, where we look at reincarnation and life as if it is a video game and start getting you from seeing yourself as the character to seeing yourself as the player. Because once you understand all of the rules of this game that we are playing, life can stop happening to you and you can start playing life strategically. Okay, so let's dig in to the 12 soul types. Now, there is going to be one that you're going to resonate with the most, but pay attention to the different ones that you resonate. I find that we are all usually a combination of 2 or 3 archetypes that compose of our own special blend. So for example, I did a soul analysis on Taylor Swift. While she is a performer, she is also an artist and an advocate. We're going to get into what those are. Those blend together to create her unique soul purpose or soul career, if you will, the work that she does lifetime over lifetime. Because there's a lot that we're going to be digging into, like I said, it's going to be 12. You'll note it's all time stamped down below so that you can go to the pieces that maybe resonate with you the most. So let's get started with the nurturer. If you are the person that everyone calls when things fall apart, the person who shows up, who holds space, who is there to help support things as they fall apart and come back together, you might be a nurturer. So the nurturer is the soul that loves as their default operating mode. They are the ones that are there to tend and to nurture things that need support or care to thrive, whether that's people or animals or plants. They're there to help make sure that things feel loved and supported, not out of a place of fear, not out of a place of obligation, but just because that is the natural inherent operating structure of this soul type. You give because that is who you are. Your presence makes people feel seen and heard and safe, and that is a huge thing in this world that we are living in. The nurturer, when we talk about the cosmic assignment that this role has, the nurturer is the one that holds the fabric of things together. This is critical. While other soul types are all about pushing things forward, pushing the boundaries, etc., the nurturer is here to make sure that nobody gets left behind, that we are all held and safe and cared for. In a sense, the nurturer is sort of the divine God archetype embodied, enabling all of humanity to feel loved and held while still in physical form. Okay, so what does this look like in this life? The nurturer is going to be the one that checks in on people and makes sure that they're doing okay. They're going to be there to be the shoulder to cry on, to give the helping hand when somebody is in need, to help shepherd somebody through a difficult experience. They're often going to be drawn towards careers that are around caregiving. So they may be nurses or therapists or healers even. They can be different roles that are there about helping people feel loved, supported, cared for, and nurtured. Now, the shadow side of being a nurturer can often be overgiving, giving too much, not setting enough boundaries, wanting to help people so much that you end up depleting yourself and not giving yourself what you need while you're giving it to everybody else because you don't want anybody to slip through the cracks because you fell short. But you are learning that you are as deserving of all that love and nurturing as everybody else around you. All right, let's move on to the artist. If you have always seen the world slightly different than everyone else and have felt a pull to express that in some form, you might be an artist. So the artist is the soul type that brings the invisible into form. They don't just make things. They take what other people can't say, they feel it, and they bring it into our reality that we experience. It doesn't really matter what the medium is. It's all about taking something intangible within you and bringing it out into the world to share with others. When we talk about the cosmic assignment for the artist is the translator between what humanity is becoming and what it currently understands. So every time we as humanity leap forward in some way, it is the artist that is bringing that into our collective consciousness. Think about the Renaissance and how that was a burgeoning artistic expression and was also the burgeoning of a new step in our human evolution. The artist takes what is emerging in the collective and makes it into a visible, experienceable reality that we can digest and learn and understand in some subconscious, subtle way to help propel us forward. So, how does the artist show up in this life? This one, I'm sure, is pretty easy to understand. The artist is going to be the one who creates things. You're going to find them engaging in painting, engaging in writing, engaging in photography. As an artist, you may be expressing yourself through a creative career, but you might also be taking that artistic expression and expressing it in whatever career you are engaging in or whatever life role you're finding yourself in. This doesn't have to be something that you're doing to make money at for this to be a part of your soul type, which makes sense because the shadow side of the artist is perfectionism. We can be very critical of ourselves if our soul type is artist and feel like things have to be perfect before we give them to the world, which can make it a little harder to go down this path as a soul type career where we're actually getting paid for our creative expression because we are judging ourselves much more harshly than the world around us is judging us. The lesson that is being worked on here is that things don't have to be approved to be beautiful, to be able to find the perfection in the perfection, the beauty in even the ugliness, that everything has its own expression and every expression is valid and worthy. Okay, let's move on to the protector. If you have always felt a strong pull to stand between harm and the people or the things that you love, you might be a protector. So the protector is the one who's going to perhaps go towards danger instead of away from it, who can take a read on the threat in the room and know what needs to happen and how they can stand strong and tall in order to make sure that other people in the room or the space or the place feel safe and protected. Your very presence in a room helps people feel safe, grounded, and protected. Let's talk about the cosmic assignment in this particular soul type, which I think is interesting, right? This idea of protection, it might not seem like this, lofty spiritual idea, and yet it truly is, because our human biology has a lot of violent tendencies to it, right? Part of the evolutionary story. And the protector soul types help to make sure that it's protecting the evolving consciousness, the awakening consciousness. The protector creates this beautiful, safe space for the healer to heal, the scholar to learn, the nurturer to care for others, because they are safe and protected from the harm that human biology can create and cause and instigate. The protector helps ground us and keep us in moving forward in our evolution. So how might this role show up in our current life? Well, no surprise, when we look at careers that protectors might fall into, they're going to be things like security guards or police or firemen or advocates, for example, for those that are vulnerable. It can show up in a variety of ways and careers depending on your soul age. They're going to be the one that's standing up to help protect those that are more vulnerable. So that could have been even as a child, perhaps you stood up against bullies in order to protect others. It's this beautiful force that shows up in a variety of different ways in your life. But now, on the shadow side of that, right, we're all human, we all are learning and evolving. One of the things that the protector can struggle with is around dominance and control. Actually, even some of those lower base human biological sorts of instincts that they're protecting us from, they themselves can fall prey to. So they're really learning how to balance out this aggressive human nature. They're learning how to handle it externally, dealing with aggression externally and aggression internally. They're learning how to find that grounded strength within them without the need for control. Let's move on to the advocate. Slightly related to the protector in some ways. You might have both. If you are somebody who has found it impossible to stay silent when you see injustice in the world, you may be an advocate. So the advocate is all about justice and standing up for what is fair and right and true. And when we look at the cosmic assignment here, I think it is so beautiful. The cosmic assignment for an advocate is about knowing what humanity's potential is and holding us accountable to that. Saying, this is who we are at our higher selves, and I will not allow you to fall short of that. We are here to make sure that everything is fair, everything is right, and that all are taken care of and respected and honored. Every society or group, anytime you have human beings that come together, we drift from what our values are, what our stated integrity is, who it is that we want to be. We fall short of that. The advocate is the one that brings us back into alignment with that speaks up and says, this is who we are. Let's remember, and not let ourselves fall short of that. Now, how might this show up in this life? Well, perhaps as a child, you were one of the ones who was always speaking out when things weren't fair. When you saw somebody in harm and you spoke up about it. Now, as an adult, this may have shown up in your career. Perhaps you became a lawyer. Perhaps you went into advocacy work or policy work or mediation or even social work. Something where you are looking at how can I bring more justice into the world. However, this might not be in a traditional justice career. It could be how you are showing up in your day-to-day life. Perhaps you are the one in your company that's calling out when things aren't being done fairly, and you are standing up when powers that be are taking advantage of those that are more vulnerable. It can make people uncomfortable when they're being held up to the higher version of themselves and seeing where they're falling short, which kind of bleeds into the shadow side of this. It can be very easy for folks that are here to really champion what is right in the world to get a bit self-righteous, to get a little bit into black or white thinking and not seeing the nuance and the context of the human story. So this is the lesson, that it's availing themselves as you're going through a variety of different incarnations where you're going to be on the side of justice, and we're also going to be on the side, you will be experiencing what it is to be unjust or unlawful, etc., because you're understanding the full scope of what it means to be following the pursuit of justice. But through all of those experiences, you begin to understand the nuances of justice and the nuances of being a human being, and you are able to find a way at a soul level on what that means, what integrity means on a deeper spiritual truth. All right, let's move on to the performer. If you've always had an instinct for feeling the energy in a room and knowing how to show up and share your own energy outward to shift the energy in that room, you might be a performer. So when we talk about the performer, we often think about somebody standing on stage in front of a room of people, or perhaps behind a camera that's expressing something to others. And yes, that is what a performer does. But a performer is also about the energy exchange. They're bringing forward something that we're needing to process or go through or learn, and transmitting that energy outward to the audience to help them in their transformation process. The performer also can be one that holds a mirror up to the world through theater, through movies, plays, etc., where they're showing different scenes of reality. But it's all about reflecting back to humanity its own nature, so that we can learn and grow and process through what we're watching, listening, experiencing. So that takes us into the cosmic assignment for the performer. They're helping humanity process itself. Think about a comedian and how a comedian can be there to bring up some of our darker truths or our harder realities and show it to us in a way that causes us to laugh and shift the energy and keep it moving and help us release that emotion and fear and judgment or pain or whatever it might be, and help us open up and expand our own selves. So, how does this show up in this life? Well, as a child, you may have been the one always trying to get attention through doing little plays or dances or telling your stories, sharing what is inside of you and bringing it out of the world more in a physical, vibrational, vocal nature, similar to the artist, but a little different, where the artist is all about taking collective reality and expressing it in some form. The performer is more about transmuting the experience of what it is to be a human being. This could mean a performer type becomes a performer. They become an actor. They become a speaker. They could even become a politician, perhaps, depending on what their motivations are to go into politics. They could be a motivational speaker. But like the other types, it could be something that they've integrated into whatever career path that they have. Perhaps they are working in corporate America, but they're doing a lot of presentations and helping people learn. This is particularly interesting when you see what it's combined with the other soul types. For example, a performer and a scholar versus a performer and an artist, a performer and a leader, a performer and a sage. These are things that are going to pair together, and is going to be what the performer is transmitting into the world, what sort of purpose they are using their performer energy for. Now, the shadow side of being a performer, no surprise, is self-absorption. They're so into sharing whatever's inside of them with the world, they can be very caught up in paying attention to it themselves. They are so often looking at trying to get external validation as well, to have other people say that they're okay, that they're good enough. And so their lesson that they're really working on is that knowing that they are completely okay as they are, and they don't need other people's validation, acceptance, approval to know that. All right, well, that takes us to the leader. If you've always been able to see the potential of what a group can become and feel the pull to lead them there, you might be a leader. The idea of the leader as a soul type is that they are the one that has a vision and can take a group of people of whatever size and direct them towards that vision, uniting them, coordinating, directing them to get them all aligned in a way forward. Now, when we look at what the cosmic assignment, right, of the leader soul type, why it exists in this pantheon of soul types, is that it moves humanity forward, right? When we talk about bringing groups of people together, the concept that a group of people is more than simply the sum of its parts, the leader can help unite the energy of a group and amplify it towards a higher goal. And in this case, leaders help humanity take giant leaps forward. Think about Martin Luther King, for example. Perfect leader slash advocate slash performer energy that helped bring humanity to the next stage of its evolution through having the vision and directing the group towards that vision. Now, how does this show up in life? Somebody who is a leader soul type is often going to be in charge of things. They might get promoted up to manager, leader type positions within an organization. They might be the person in their friend group that's always saying, this is what we're going to do next. Or in their family, the one that kind of takes charge and makes sure that everything happens the way that it needs to happen. On the shadow side of that is power. The lesson around power and struggling with using power for positive ends and not getting your ego caught up in it. When a leader is in that position of power, are they using it for their own selfish gains, or are they using it for the betterment of humanity? When we are younger souls, we often get a little bit more lost when it comes to this and end up doing pretty harmful, hurtful things to large groups of people we're learning about. And I say we because I'm a leader soul type. Leaders are learning all about how to leverage power in a way that uplifts others and not compresses or suppresses them. By the way, I just mentioned I'm a leader soul type. And if you haven't figured out who you are yet, or you have some suspicions based off of what we've already covered, I created a soul type quiz. Yes, where you can find out what your main soul type is, as well as where you rank on all the rest of them. I will put the link to that down below and also in a pinned comment. It's on my website, JillianHarrington.com. You can find it there. You'll also get a lovely guide that goes through everything we're talking about and more on each of the soul types. But I'm gonna guess you are going to find yourself in one of the next 3 archetypes. Based on the fact that you're watching this video, yours is probably coming up. Let's move on to the sage. If you are someone who is always interested in the questions underneath the questions, why we are here, what is the big truth of everything, what is our spiritual reality, you might be a sage. The sage is the one that's drawn to the spiritual truths of our nature, of our reality. They're the ones that are going to be drawn more towards religious knowledge, spiritual knowledge, the unspoken, the unseen, the mysterious forces at work and at play. Now, when we talk about a cosmic assignment, pretty clear with the sage, right? When we are talking about the assignment that we're all going through to help us in our awakening process, the sage is there to help tap into that wisdom, that truth, and share it with humanity and help us learn and understand the deeper nature of our own soul. So how does this one show up in a day-to-day life? It could be that you are somebody who is always interested in the mysteries, the unknown, which is, like I said, one of the reasons you might be this one just because you're watching this video. The sage wants to understand and learn, so they will be looking for various different pieces of knowledge and information that can help develop their wisdom. However, it is not only in acquiring wisdom, it is also in sharing it. So they may be the person that people go to help them when they need advice, to help them when they need wisdom, to help them when they need to process and more deeply understand why something is happening. So beyond supporting and loving and nurturing them, the sage is going to be the one that's going to help them find the truth or the meaning or a deeper understanding in their experience. On the shadow side of the sage experience is that they can get into a little bit of escapism or disconnection from physical reality because they are orienting themselves so much with the unseen world, and because the physical world is a challenge. It can be very easy for somebody who is deep into that sage experience to pull themselves out of physical reality and exist in another dimension. But the lesson that they're working on is how we take that spiritual wisdom and truth and ground it into our physical reality, our human truth. We incarnated into physical form for a reason. We're not just hanging out on the other side on purpose. So how is it, if you are a sage, can you bring that knowledge and wisdom into 3D reality? Let's move on to the scholar, another soul type that likes to learn, but in a different direction. If you are someone who's always been drawn to knowledge, to understand things, not at a surface level, but like at a deep level, you might be a scholar. The scholar is the one that is drawn towards learning, towards collecting information and understanding of how things work. You synthesize it, you gather it, you bring it together, you create a new building of information, knowledge, understanding, so that we can all make more sense of the world. So that really pulls us into the cosmic assignment of the scholar, right? They're the ones synthesizing knowledge so that we are not starting from scratch. They're not only bringing it together, they're also often the ones recording it, mapping it out for us so that every generation we continue to move forward and aren't starting from scratch again. How does this show up in this life? Books. The scholar is going to be drawn towards information. So probably as a child you did a lot of reading. Maybe books, maybe websites, whatever your medium of choice, you were absorbing as much information as you could. Could also be through videos, right? It's about bringing in knowledge so that you can build a deeper framework understanding of reality. You may have used this trait, this natural inclination in your career as well. You may have gone into science, you may have gone into research, you may have gone into something where having an accumulation of knowledge was important for the work that you're doing. Or it could be that you're just the person in your friend group or family that is the walking encyclopedia. You have a lot of knowledge and information, often focused in one particular or a few different areas, because that's the idea. The scholar is going to go deep into a particular knowledge area in order to deepen our understanding. Or conversely, they might go super broad in order to see how all of the pieces fit together. It's all about expanding humanity's knowledge and awareness. On the other side of that, the shadow, when you're in all of this knowledge, is that you can really fall into the trap of overthinking or analysis paralysis. You become so focused on the mental zone, you can get lost in it. So the lesson that you're working on is how do you take that mental knowledge and how you draw that more deeply into a wisdom? How do you deepen your mental knowledge into soul knowledge? Okay, let's move on to the healer. If you've always been able to sense that there is something wrong beneath the surface or off and have been drawn towards doing something about it and transforming it in some way, you might be a healer. The healer is the soul type that is not only about fixing what is broken, but more about seeing what is whole within us naturally and bringing us back into alignment with that. They can often locate the sense of pain, whether it's physical or emotional or mental, and know what to do to create growth in that area, to create a release of pain and suffering. So when we look at what is the cosmic assignment for this particular soul type, it is all about helping humanity move through its pain. And we carry all of these wounds. We carry physical wounds, karmic wounds, and relationship wounds, and emotional wounds. So many wounds that are a part of our learning and our soul evolutionary process. However, it's very easy to get stuck in them and to not be able to move forward because it can be so hard and challenging. They can heal not only on the individual level, healers can also work on the familial level, on the collective level, the group level. It can be in a variety of different ways depending on how they're choosing to show up in their human form, in their career, in their purpose in this lifetime. And also, along with their soul age, might also factor into what level of size of an impact they're looking to make. Now, how this shows up in this life. They may have been the one that is always drawn to the person that is in pain and in suffering and wants to try to take that pain away from them and heal them from it. They may have been the person that is drawn to people that have a lot of emotional wounds and baggage to be able to help them process and clear it. Now, when we look at careers, of course, this is pretty clear. A healer could become a nurse or a doctor, a therapist, or a counselor. They also may be drawn to body work or being an energy healer. But it might not be in a career. It might also be in how they show up in their friend group, their family group, or just in their career at large, that they're the ones that are looking to how can we take pain and release it, heal it, and transform it. Now the shadow side of this. It's often easy to take on too much responsibility. Trying to rescue people from their pain can feel so critical and important because, of course, it is. But it can be easy to get out of balance in that. And part of the lesson here is to learn that other people are really the ones who rescue themselves. That as the healer, you are simply a tool for that person to use in their own healing process. You don't have to be responsible for fixing other people. You are simply a resource when people are ready to fix themselves. Okay, let's move on to the builder. If you've always been someone who can make things happen, who can take something from an idea into a plan, from a plan into a structure, from a structure into something real, you might be a builder. They are the ones that can take a vision and create it into physical reality, to actual structures and buildings and things that we use in our human day-to-day lives. It's interesting because these are like artists because they are creators, right? They're creating something new, but it's a little different than the artist because they're not interpreting reality, they're creating reality. They're creating our buildings, they're creating our processes and structures. They're creating how we can make life work while we're in physical form. So that's why I think the cosmic assignment for this group is fascinating. Builders are the ones that help shape the material reality so that all of these different soul types, all of their work can come into form. They create our food that we eat. They create the processes that allow safety to happen or organization to work. They're shaping the material reality into one that we can actually thrive within. Okay, so how does this show up in our day-to-day life? You might be someone who likes making things out of wood or clay. Maybe you like playing with pottery. Perhaps you ended up becoming an architect or a professional chef or an engineer. You are in making the intangible tangible. But let's look at the shadow side of this. soul type as well. Because this is a soul type that is more oriented toward physical reality, and physical reality is slower in nature, you might find yourself more resistant to change. It can be hard to move on when you've created this thing and you get very married to a particular moment in time, a particular solid structure, and it's difficult to let that go, let things die, and let something new come in its place. So that is the soul lesson that is available here, is the lesson of death, really, and transformation and transition. While you are masters of transformation in the sense of bringing new things in, it's also about letting go as well and moving into the area where things have to be broken down and being okay with that so that things can be built new again. And then let's move on to the adventure, sort of on the opposite side of the scale from the builder as far as that holding on to things being the same always. The adventure is always moving on. If you've always been the person who's felt the most alive at the edge of the unknown, a new place, a new frontier, breaking out into something that has never been experienced before, you might be an adventurer. The adventurer is always heading out into the unknown. They feel constrained when things feel too settled and familiar. They are out there pushing the boundaries. That might be geographical. They might be a traveler and wanting to experience new cultures and new societies. It could also be in the realm of the human mind or the societal experience, that they're wanting to continue to push us into the new and the unexperienced. So that takes us to the cosmic assignment for the adventure. They're all about pushing the boundaries so that humanity continue to move forward and saying, hey, there's this whole new world out there that we didn't even think is possible. They bring the impossible into our experience and our reality. Without the adventure, humanity would just continue to stay in the same little safety zone it's always known. It is the adventure that braves their fear and pushes forward so that we can follow into a whole new land. Now, how does this show up in this life? Well, you're probably an early adopter if you're an adventurer. You are very comfortable with risk and you love trying new things, so you're probably out there exploring the latest technology or the newest foods or the weirdest new trends. You're going to be experiencing them. You might also have, and probably do, a lust for travel. So you are all over the world as much as you possibly can be. Now, as far as a career, this might show up in the travel realm. Like maybe you're a professional traveler, maybe you are a content creator or a photographer or a travel writer. But this could also be in the realm of human mental expansion. So perhaps you're an entrepreneur in this whole cutting edge new arena of business. Perhaps you are a researcher that's exploring a whole new body of scientific knowledge. Perhaps you are even a spiritual adventurer. Now, the shadow side of the adventurer struggles with restlessness, right? They're always charging out there to find something new. And sometimes that can manifest as running away from in order to find something that makes them feel better or more whole or more themselves or somehow improve. So the lesson here and the opportunity here is to be able to find that home within themselves, to be able to stop running from whatever it is that they're trying to escape and be able to have that inner journey, that inner exploration, that bravery to go into the pain within and to find their own innate depth without needing to experience everything outside of them and knowing that is all already within them. And then let's move on to the rebel. I think sort of a cousin to the adventurer in my mind, at least. If you're the kind of person that always seems to push back and disagree with whatever the reality is that everybody else agrees on, you might be a rebel. In a way, the rebel is kind of the opposite of the builder, because while the builder is all about creating things that stand the test of time, the rebel is all about tearing it down and being able to create new space. They are all about challenging the status quo and the system and saying, this agreed upon reality is not worth my time. So I think when we get to the cosmic assignment of the rebel, they're all about dismantling what humanity has built, right? All of these different soul lessons are about moving us into our future and about evolving us forward. The rebel is about clearing away that which we have outgrown and getting rid of it. So that can be systems that no longer work, political structures. It could be about social structures and social constructs. You can kind of see how some of these different soul types might work together when you think about the artist being able to embody that which humanity is becoming, and the rebel being about tearing down what we no longer are, and the builder coming in and building the system and the structure for who we are stepping into in our next stage. All of these different soul types are beautifully intertwined as we look at our human evolution. So how does the rebel show up in our day-to-day life? Well, this is the person who always challenges the rules, who always says, why do we have to do things? And then says, you know what? I don't think we have to do things this way. So where are we going to find rebels as far as a career? They could be entrepreneurs, breaking down the way things have always been done to create something new. They might also be activists. You may also find them even as guerrilla fighters or revolutionary fighters, etc., fighting the power structures that be. Depending on where they're at in their soul evolution, this rebellious tendency is going to show up in different ways and is going to be different levels of destructive or constructive as it might turn out. Now we look at their shadow side, not surprising, it's going to be on that destruction theme as far as self-destruction. Rebels might be learning a little bit more about how things get torn apart and torn down by tearing down their own lives and their own life experiences. So the lesson here to be worked on is learning how to do destruction with precision and with intention. How do you align that with a moral or a spiritual center and do it in a way that's bringing in love and hope and brightness and not simply tearing down and destroying things for destruction's sake? Whew, okay, that was the 12th. Thank you for going through that. Now we want to talk about what do we do with this information. So the first is to figure out what your soul types are. Like I mentioned, you probably have 1, 2, or 3 that is a combination that makes up your unique blend. Now, as I said earlier, if you caught that bit, I made a soul type quiz that you can take to figure out exactly where you fall amongst all of these different types and what your unique blend is. Now, when you take it, you'll also get a guide that will dig in a little bit deeper to all these areas, your core gift, how you are in relationships, your shadow, how this might show up differently based off of how old your soul is, and give you a clear map that you can walk away with. So let's take a look at how the blending can be a little different based off of what your different soul types are. Let's say you have rebel, artist, and performer. Again, rebel, all about breaking norms. Artist, all about manifesting into reality that which needs to be expressed as far as where we're going, etc., cultural truths. And then performer, all about transmitting that and shifting things energetically. So this might show up as a performance artist, right? That could be challenging structural norms or the way that things have been performed in the past and bringing in an entirely new way of performance. Or let's try another combo, rebel, sage, and healer. So again, we've got the rebel, all about breaking down status quo, disruption. We have the sage, all about wisdom. We have the healer, all about clearing and transforming pain and bringing us back into wholeness. So you bring those together and maybe you have a new type of a therapist, somebody who is looking at spiritual truths in a new way to help people heal in a way that is challenging the way that society has always said this is what healing looks like. So once you know what your blend is, that helps you see what it is you are here to accomplish, what your purpose is, in this life. This is the way that I like to think about it. One of our soul types is about what we are here to do. One of our soul types is about how we are here to do it. And one is about why we do it. Now, for myself, I'm a leader, performer, sage. So I am a leader. That is my primary archetype. I am here to work with groups, to create community, to have a vision about where we are going collectively and help guide people that way. I have performer energy, so I do it in a way where I'm transmitting information verbally, energetically. And sage is my why. I'm all about doing it because I believe in the spiritual truths that I understand and know, and wanting to help in the spiritual evolution of humankind. That's kind of me in a nutshell. So I'm curious what your 3 blends are, if you take the test, put it down below, and how it shows up in this life. And then I want to ask, are you fully living your soul type right now fully? Are you fully expressing these in your day-to-day life? Or do you find yourself stuck perhaps in what a conventional role might be? How can you be bringing these aspects of yourself, these natural inherent tendencies and traits of yourself into your life to be able to help create and foster the future we are all traveling into? And this was a lot. This was a lot that I covered. And yet at the same time, this was only the top of the iceberg that we dug into. I am curious if there's something that you're wanting me to go a little bit deeper into and explore more. Let me know. We can see what else we can dig into. I think there's a lot of juice as we look at this soul type and how we can all show up to help transform the world around us when we're really leveraging our innate abilities and who our true soul nature is. We can be happy and we can help make the world a happier place. And here's the other interesting thing about all of this. We've talked about the soul type, but there's also how old your soul is, what developmental stage you are at. And depending on where you're at in your soul growth, how your soul type shows up or manifests itself is going to look different. So if you're curious as to what your soul age is and all those different developmental stages, I did a video here all about your soul age. I have a test that you can take to find out your soul age as well. Or if you are interested in seeing how the soul age and soul types show up with an individual person, I did a soul analysis on Taylor Swift. You can check that out here. Whichever one you end up watching, don't forget to take the soul type quiz and let me know what your soul type is. Are you a sage? Are you a scholar? What are you? Let me know. Okay, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.